All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's 1:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our Water Quality Advisory Work Group meeting for the quarter. I want to say welcome to everybody and thanks for coming out. My name is Greg Easley. I work in the Water Quality Division here at TCEQ, manage the Water Quality Assessment section. And I think we'll just start out by going around the room and everyone introducing ourselves. So you now know me, and we'll start over here and come around the table.
Travis Tim. I am the team leader for the Customer Information and Assistance team within the Water Quality Division.
Laurie Fleet, Wastewater Permitting.
Brian Saran, I'm the Biosolids Work Leader for the Water Quality Division.
C.W. Schneider, I'm on the team leader on the Land Application team in the Water Quality Division.
Good afternoon, Rebecca Villalba, team leader for the Stormwater team.
Lindsay Garza, work leader for the Stormwater team.
Peter Schaefer, team leader for the Standards Implementation team.
And we normally have a microphone for y'all out in the audience, but looks like we're with that, or we do have one? Well, oh, here she comes. Sorry, hang on just a second so everyone can hear who you are.
Zachary King, TCEQ Program Support.
Ann Ruthstrom, TCEQ Program Support.
Asa Bigham, TCEQ Enforcement Division.
Jamie Canings, Burns McDonnell.
Nathan Vassar with Lloyd Goslink.
Samia Broadway, Baker Botts.
Susan Meckel, LCRA Water Quality Protection.
Tammy West, Austin Water.
Michaela Coleman, Stormwater team.
All right. Thank you very much. And again, glad you're all here to join us this afternoon. Before we get into the agenda, just one other thing about, I guess we've got some folks participating online and just wanted to speak to those folks. If any of y'all have any questions you want to ask during the course of the meeting, just go ahead and shoot an email to our outreach mailbox, which is outreach@tcq.texas.gov, and we'll field them as at the appropriate time during the meeting. So don't hesitate to send us those questions, and we'll try to answer them. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. We've got a handful of general permit updates to go through first, so we'll turn it over to C.W. Schneider to kick us off.
We are proposing to renew the Concentrated Animal Feeding Operation General Permit TXG 920000. The CAFO General Permit prohibits discharge of waste except under chronic or catastrophic conditions. It must be reissued every 5 years. The current permit is set to expire on July 20th, 2019. Public notice was published in the Texas Register and in newspapers on February 22nd, 2019. We held a public meeting here at the TCEQ headquarters at the conclusion of the 30-day comment period, and that meeting occurred on March 25th, 2019. We did receive several comments during the public comment period and during the public meeting, and the Water Quality Division staff has prepared a draft response to those comments, and the draft is currently in review with our Office of Legal Services. We anticipate going to the Commissioners for adoption of the general permit on June 26, 2019. The current schedule will have the new general permit in place about 3 weeks ahead of the scheduled expiration date of the current general permit. After the Commissioners' agenda on June 26, we will send out letters to permittees to let them know when they can start submitting the NOI forms through either e-permit or paper. Permittees will have 180 days from the July 20th, 2019 date to renew, and that deadline would fall on January 16th, 2020. Are there any questions?
All right, no questions I'm seeing. We'll move on to the next one, next couple with Lindsay Garza.
Hello, everyone. So the first update I'm giving is on the multi-sector general permit for the stormwater program. This is our general permit that regulates stormwater discharges from industrial facilities. And we didn't have too much going on with this permit except just an update that, the 2016 general permit did require the discharge monitoring reports for hazardous metals and sector-specific effluent limits to be submitted electronically through the NetDMR system. However, we've identified some issues with some of the questions that have been entered into NetDMR, and they are not capturing all the information that we need so for certain sectors. So we made a decision that was supported by EPA to allow paper discharge monitoring reports to be submitted to TCEQ. And this is going to continue until the end of the permit term, which will be August 14, 2021. So we did mail out temporary NetDMR waivers to all active permittees. We mailed those out February 28th of this year. So we just wanted to remind everyone that if they are submitting their hazardous metals, if needed, or if sector-specific effluent limits need to be submitted, just go ahead and send them on the paper discharge monitoring report forms. Also, some permittees have submitted electronically. They've let us know that they were able to get into the system and submit electronically, and now, since we have the NetDMR waiver, we're telling them it's okay if you submitted them electronically, just make sure they kept documentation to show any investigators or anyone that comes to the site to show that they actually submitted theirs already electronically. Just a reminder, benchmark monitoring forms are still paper form. Those are not electronic yet, so I know there's been some confusion. And then also a big reminder is that for the hazardous metals sampling, we do want permittees to know that you do not have to submit those unless there is an exceedance. So we still quite often get some hazardous metals DMRs where there are no exceedances, so we just want to remind everyone, keep those on site if you haven't had an exceedance. Any questions on the MSGP update? Okay, I'll go through the John Graves update pretty quickly. Our John Graves general permit that regulates quarries within the John Graves Scenic Riverway was issued and is effective as of March 29th of this year. Permittees now have a 90-day grace period to renew their authorization, and that deadline is June 27th, 2019. We've prepared letters to send to all 6 permittees that we have under this general permit, and they'll be sent out explaining the steps to renew their authorizations. Steps include filling out the notice of intent form, completing a core data form, including an updated restoration plan, proof of financial assurance, pollution prevention plan, or also known as a P3, and also an application fee that needs to be paid. Any questions on John Graves? Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to give an update on the MS4 Phase 2 general permit. So this is the permit that regulates stormwater discharges from municipal separate storm sewer systems located in urbanized areas, also known as the small MS4 general permit. The permit expired on December 13th of 2018, and it was administratively continued until its issuance date, which was January 24th of this year. So that started the 180-day renewal period. So the renewal period ends on July 23rd of this year. So all entities need to submit a new NOI on the new form, not the old form, the new form, and update their SWAM to meet the permit requirements. That then needs to be submitted to us with the new fee. The application fee has increased from $100 to $400. So please make sure that you pay the new fee. Our web pages have been updated to include this information as well as the new forms. So please be sure that you submit the new forms. We send out postcards instead of letters this time, notifying as a courtesy reminder to all the permittees that they needed to submit a renewal application with a website link for instructions. We've had a couple of questions regarding annual reports since the permit was issued later than expected. Just wanted you to know that the reporting requirements of when you need to submit an annual report have not been affected. You continue reporting as you normally would. If you have any questions, please talk to us, and we'll be talking to you on a case-by-case basis, because some of you have a general permit term, some of you have a calendar year, some have a fiscal year, and we can help you understand what you need to include in your next annual report in terms of your reporting months that need to be included. Also, we're pleased to announce that together with Small Business Local Government Assistance, we scheduled 6 workshops across Texas. We couldn't go every single corner of Texas. We did get some concerns that we're not going everywhere. We do have 6 workshops, and so far we have about 340 entities that have registered. Just know our universe is about 550 that have NOIs. So we're very pleased for the turnout. They are free workshops, so we're glad that people are taking advantage of the fact that they're free. We held the first one in Belton a couple of weeks ago. Tomorrow will be in San Marcos. Then we have Dallas on April 25th, and that's already closed. You know, we full capacity at 100. Houston, there's still some seats available. That's April 30th. And then we have Weslaco, May 7th, and that's also already closed. And then we just opened, because of the demand in the North Texas area, we opened one in Waco, and that's going to be June 4th. So far, only one person is registered for that, because we just opened it last week. At those workshops, we're explaining what we mean by having a permit that's clear, specific, and measurable, what we expect the swamps to have now, and how to ensure that a permittee complies with the new permit requirements, and also addressing every minimum control measure with examples of BMPs, examples of measurable goals, as well as how to apply that to your annual report. So it's a 6-hour workshop. So if you can, please attend, or if you know others, let them know. But that's our update on the MS4. Oh, sorry, one more thing. I'll just take the whole day, okay? Regarding the MS4 permit, as you know, that we needed to comply with certain requirements now with the MS4 remand rule that was effective in 2017. So part of that is the notices of change. So there's notices of change that are considered significant or substantial or major changes to a stormwater management program, which is the MS4's permit. Those that are considered significant, we need to work with EPA to determine a process that they're going to be happy with, as well as we are. But basically, those notices of change, the MS4 needs to publish them in on their website. If the MS4 doesn't have a website, then we will publish those notices of changes on our website, so we're working on that process. As well as EPA, with the rule, needs to review or have the opportunity to review every single stormwater management program that comes to us, every NOI application that comes to us. With 550 NOIs that are full stormwater management programs and about 50 that are waivers, EPA is going to have a hard time reviewing all those. So we're working with them to set up a process where they're comfortable that they're going to be receiving and reviewing a sample of, our applications, because we don't want the process to be slowed down, and they don't want to review every single application. So just know that we're working with EPA on that, so we'll give you a status update next time when we have the process ready on how we're going to proceed with that. So your swamp may be one that gets reviewed by EPA. We don't know. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Rebecca. We'll move on to several rule updates, and start off with the biosolids rule with Brian.
Good afternoon. For any of those that are unfamiliar with this rule change, it's a agency initiated rule change to provide administrative updates, provide more clarification throughout the rules for sludge use, disposal, and transportation. My updates mainly consist of dates, because we've had things go on recently. In fact, we're currently working with briefing the Office of Water right now, and once we've completed that, we can move on with our official rulemaking process. And so June 12th, we will go to the commission agenda for approval to publish, which means that the agenda backup will be available on May 24th for viewing. The rules would then be published, if everything goes well, the rules would be published in the Texas Register on June 28th, and that's when the 30-day comment period will begin. We plan to have a public meeting here, or public hearing here in the agenda room on July 30th. And that's when the 30-day comment period would end. Then August 1st through November 15th, we have the standard TCEQ internal procedures, rule procedures. Then again, the agenda backup material for the actual rules will go up on November 26th. And we'll go to adoption here for agenda on December 12th and hope to have the rules become effective on January 9th of 2020. And that's all I have right now as far as updates. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, my update is on House Bill 2582, which was related to an exemption for certain aggregate production operations from last session. House Bill 2582 amended Texas Water Code, Chapter 28A, to add a new exemption to the list of exemptions in the definition of aggregate production operation. The exemption applies to a site at which specialty or terrazzo-type stone is removed or extracted from the earth. The material is produced for commercial sale and is used exclusively for decorative or artistic uses, and the horizon that's exposed for current production does not exceed 5 acres. The proposed rule was published in the Texas Register in December of last year for public comment, and a public hearing was held in January. We did not receive any public comments on this rulemaking. It is now scheduled for adoption at Commissioner's agenda on May 22nd. Any questions on that rulemaking? Okay.
I talked so much last time that I forgot I had to continue. Okay, so the next update is on the Federal Rule Clean Water Act Analytical Methods Update Rule, as we know it as MUR. Last time when we met, we announced that we were going to be having a stakeholder meeting, an external stakeholder meeting, April 30th. Due to legislative demands and other things, we still don't have final decision from management, and communication with EPA has started, but we still don't have anything final that we are able to present to you. So now we have tentatively rescheduled it to June 27th at 1:30 in room 2210, which is in Building F. So we are moving forward to hopefully, by that time, session would have ended, and we would have time to work with EPA to finalize our implementation plan. We have created a specific mailbox that's called WQ-MUR. So we are going to be sending out an email with some questions and guidance that we would like laboratories and anybody that's registered to be in the MUR stakeholder group. We're going to send out a survey, and we would like for you to respond. We're going to give 3-week deadline to respond, so that email should be coming up next week. Again, we will coming from the WQ-MUR email box. So now we have an official email box so that we can communicate with the stakeholders that way. And that's the update that we have for now.
Any questions for Rebecca? And Rebecca, could you repeat that date one more time, since it's a...
June 27th.
Okay,
At
thank you.
1:30, room 2210, Building F.
So that is a change from what we have on the agenda. So just want to make sure everyone catches that.
Greg, we do have one question that came in online for Rebecca.
Oh, sure.
Veronica Godley with San Antonio Water Systems wants to know if there's any discussion about adding additional methods to the FOA, and if so, what methods are under discussion?
So yes, we right now have added, you know, the 3 that are already on our NELAC accreditation program. We're looking at adding more methods that are in Table 1B, and that includes several of them, so I can't list them because there's a lot of them. So we are preparing a second memo that's going to be going to our accreditation group for them to set up accreditation and offer fields of accreditation for those methods.
All right, thank you. And unfortunately, we don't have the presenter here for the City of Austin rule petition, so we're going to have to postpone that update. Although I will say, if you'd rather not wait, you know, however long to get an update on that, please just send an email to the outreach mailbox saying you'd like to get an update, and we can get that information to you. I don't want to do more harm than good by, you know, saying what little I know about that particular effort. So I'll just hold off and we'll wait for more formal update, or more knowledgeable person to give that update, I should say.
Give a slight update.
All right, go for it.
I can give a little bit of an update. It is that rulemaking is tentatively scheduled to go to the commissioner's agenda for proposal, which is approval to publish on June 12th. So again, that's tentatively scheduled for June 12th proposal agenda.
We had one other question come in online for Rebecca regarding the MUR work group. Jennifer Whitaker with the Trinity River Authority would like to know, is there a change to the compliance dates of laboratories for the new methods?
No, there's no dates changed. It's the date that is on the website. Can't remember, April, I think it was last week or this week when the date is officially done. And it's for them to submit the application. But those are the dates on the website. I'm sorry, I can't remember.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move now to some program updates, and we'll start with Peter Schaefer with the implementation procedure revisions.
Most of you are probably aware that we are revising our procedures to implement the Texas Surface Water Quality Standards. We also call those the implementation procedures, or IPs for short. We're taking sort of a 2-track process to do that. One track is for a major revision that's going to parallel the standards revisions, and that's going to include revising ambient water quality data, and a number of other things. But there's also a second track, which is sort of a mini revision, which is going to take place before that major revision, and that's going to include updates to what we refer to as low-hanging fruit. These are items that we're already implementing, and it's just sort of to memorialize it in our IPs. And that includes things like reasonable potential for whole effluent toxicity testing, pH screening procedures, dechlorination requirements for facilities that are between 0.5 and 1 MGD, and correcting some errors and omissions, things like that. So we had a comment period that just ended, an initial comment period that ended April 8th. But if you guys have any updates you want me to consider, I'm happy to listen. And with that, I will take any questions that you may have.
Peter, I want to make sure I understood the time frame for the regular IP update, not the mini focused one. That's in the same cycle with the next round of water quality standards?
That's correct. Yes.
Is there a time frame? I know I've seen some emails about this for the kickoff for that next triennial set of updates. Like when is the agency going to have a stakeholder introduction meeting coming up?
Yeah, I don't have the date in front of me. It was officially kicked off in the Federal Register on March 8th, and that comment period ended April 8th. I don't know off the top of my head when the next stakeholder meeting is, but I can look that up and give that information to you.
Yeah, I don't remember the dates either. They're not solid just yet, but I want to say the first stakeholder meetings probably wouldn't occur till early next year. Ballpark. Mm-hmm. Any other questions for Peter?
All right, I'll go into our next topic, which is improving permit processing timeframes. I had this topic on our agenda at our last meeting in January, and so just wanted to continue to give y'all updates and on where we are with that. So the Water Quality Division is exploring ideas for streamlining the permitting process. Our legislative performance measure is to process 85% of our permits on time. We've identified 2 areas that need the applicant and/or the consultant's assistance in order to meet those timeframes, and that is timely publishing of the public notices and submitting the verification documentation, and number 2 is timely review of draft permits. As far as the public notice delays, there are currently 48 permits that are either delayed because of the notice of application and preliminary decision either hasn't been published, or the verification documents have not been submitted, or they were submitted incorrectly. That is an improvement from our last meeting. So this time we currently have 48. Previously we had 66. So I'm just going to remind everyone to please publish your notice as quickly as possible and submit the documentation to the Chief Clerk's office as soon as possible after publication. As far as the draft review, there's currently 51 permits that are delayed because the applicant and/or consultant have not accepted the draft permit. That's up from 46 at our last meeting. So we were at 46, we've now gone up to 51. Beginning this week, we plan to start emailing the draft permit, the fact sheet, and the notice rather than using U.S. Postal Service. This will allow the applicant a little bit of additional time to review the permit. A lot of times we get requests for extensions. We're hoping that by emailing it and it getting directly to the applicant and/or the consultant, that will give them some additional time. We understand that if we use U.S. Postal Service, sometimes it goes to an address, but then it's got to kind of trickle through the organization to get to the right person, so it can get delayed for that reason. So by using email, we feel like it's going to get to the right person quicker. We encourage you to make sure that the applicant contact, both for the administrative portion and the technical portion. So in the application form, it asks for the admin contact and the technical contact. Those are the 2 email addresses that it will be sent to. Be sure that you provide email addresses. If we do not have an email address, it will get sent by U.S. Postal Service. So back to our current delays with the notice delays and the draft permit delays. Together, those represent 14% of our permits being delayed. That's a slight improvement. Previously, we were at 16% being delayed. However, ultimately, when combined, these delays result in us being unable to meet our processing timeframes. We would much rather reserve that 15% for permits that are technically complex or have significant issues or technical problems. You know, those are the ones we want to focus our time on. And having permits that are being delayed simply for, publishing notice and draft acceptance, we really want to eliminate that as much as possible. So with y'all's help, we all hope to meet our 85% on time. Are there any questions? Very good. Thank you. Oh, we do have a question. She's coming.
I can't speak to the assumption of what the published notices are, the problems are, but the City of Austin, we have several permits that we have to deal with, and each publication costs us around $2,500. I'm assuming that could probably be the problem. Has TCQ looked into the fact of shortening the publications at all?
Well, EPA recently published their NPDES update rule, which would allow states to go to a web-based noticing. Unfortunately, our Texas Water Code still requires newspaper notice in the newspaper of general circulation in the county where the facility is located. So even though EPA has moved to a web-based, we are still required by Texas Water Code to publish in the local newspaper. So we will be continuing that. And yes, the content, how much, what has to be in those notices, we are unable to change that either. As a point of reference, you mentioned in Austin it's about 2,500. In the Houston area, it's about 4,000 to 4,500 per publication. So that's $8,000 to $9,000 for notice. And if you publish incorrectly, if there's errors in those notices and you have to republish, you have to republish. I would encourage everyone to read the instructions that are provided with the notice. Be sure that you are publishing the notice that is sent to you in that notice packet. Do not publish one that's sent to you during the draft review because it may have changed since then. So publish the one in the packet that's mailed to you or now going to be emailed to you. And just be sure and read your instructions because it is expensive. We do recognize that. And having to republish, it slows us down. It falls under that, delayed for notices, but it also hits y'all in the pocketbook. So. Any other questions about permitting processing?
All right, well, unfortunately, the pretreatment program update, which is next on the agenda, we're not able to get that to you today. Definitely catch that next time, but in place of that, I actually wanted to add an item, just give a brief update on some of the bills that we've been dealing with in the current legislative session. So I think Lori and Brian are going to talk a little bit about that.
Got 4 bills that we saw in the last session also, but that's strictly sludge related, sludge or septage related. 2 of them are the same bill. That's Senate Bill 2070 and then House Bill 3930. And this would amend Texas Health and Safety Code Section 361 to prohibit the TCQ to allow land application of grit or grease trap waste combined with sewage sludge, and define grease trap waste, grit trap waste, and grit trap. We've seen that bill, I think, the last 2 sessions, maybe 3 sessions, so we'll see what happens. Another one is House Bill 3318. This would require an individual permit for the land application of domestic septage. So domestic septage is pretty much, we require registration for beneficial use currently, and this is just household septic tanks. And you have companies that pump the septic tank, add lime for treatment, and land apply it beneficially. This would require a permit very similar to our Class B sewage sludge land application sites. Would require the same notice requirements as we were talking about the publishing the notice in the newspaper earlier. They would have to publish 2 notices in the paper. They would be open up for contested case hearing, which they currently aren't, and public meeting. There'd be certain permit conditions included that the septage haulers are not used to, new fees, application requirements, insurance requirements, transportation requirements, along with other site management practices or prohibitions, such as including a nutrient management plan, hydrologic characteristics of the site, and not being able to land apply in a county that borders the Gulf of Mexico. If you're within 500 feet of a waterway or a well, you'd have to buffer out that land application area. So that's a big one. And we also have House Bill 3319. And this would require that the soil samples required at both domestic septage sites and our Class B land application sites be conducted by a regional office inspector. And so we currently require annual soil samples to be taken and at 2 depths and 10 to 15 grab samples per 80 acres. And so that adds up on some of these bigger sites. House Bill 3930, which is one of the grit and grease prohibitions, and 3318, which is the requiring a permit for domestic septic sites, are scheduled to go before the Environmental Regulation Committee tomorrow at the Capitol. So that's my updates. And those are just sludge-related bills that we've received.
As far as my updates, this session we've had a lot of bills related to the aggregate production operation program, which is quarries. We've had at least 15 bills related to that program. So House Bill 2710 and its companion Senate Bill 2278 would require reclamation requirements for aggregate production operations. Senate Bill 1696 would require a permit for aggregate production operations to include public notice and contested case hearings. House Bill 2942 would also require an aggregate production operation to conduct reclamation, and if they were to complete the reclamation within 1 year of initiating extraction activities, they would still be able to qualify for an ag exemption on their property from the tax code, their property taxes. They would still be ag exempt if they were able to complete all the reclamation within 1 year of starting the extraction activities. And then a couple of them that are not APO related, we have House Bill 2771, and it has a companion Senate Bill 1585. What that would do would transfer the certain oil and gas permits, discharge permits from the Railroad Commission to TCEQ. So it's specifically for hydrostatic test water, produced water, and gas plant effluent wastewater. So those discharges currently are authorized by the Railroad Commission for the state permit and EPA for the federal permit. That bill would transfer the authority to TCEQ and require TCEQ to amend our delegation, NPDES delegation authority. And then upon delegation, we would begin issuing those permits. There's also House Bill 4116, which is related to financial assurance for NPDES or TIPDES programs or permittees. What that would do would be allow an NPDES or TIPDES permittee to enter into an agreement with potential protestants and establish requirements and also create financial assurance. And then if the permittee fails to comply with the terms of the agreement, the financial assurance would be drawn down, and those parties to the agreement would not be able to request a contested case hearing. So it would be we're going to establish requirements in an agreement. There's going to be some financial assurance and drawdown of that financial assurance for noncompliance with the agreement, and then the parties could not request a contested case hearing unless the financial assurance was completely exhausted. And those are the ones that I have that are kind of the ones that have the larger impact and ones that appear to be moving. They've either gone through committee hearings and or have had committee substitutes, so they appear to be moving. Any questions? Okay.
All right, well, that's the end of our list of topics there. I've just got a few announcements to give real quick. The next meeting of this advisory work group will be on July 16th. That's a Tuesday. And same time, same place, but be on the lookout for announcements for that and an upcoming agenda for that meeting. And then, as Rebecca mentioned, the methods update work group meeting was rescheduled for June 27th this year over in Building F, room 2210 at 1:30 p.m. And of course, our one of our big events of the year, the Environmental Trade Fair and Conference at the Austin Convention Center is coming up next month, May 14th through 15th, and there's a web address there that you can go to if you'd like to get more information about that. And just one other little tidbit that came across my desk today, and maybe some of you have heard about this, just kind of a bit of news for the regulatory world in general. EPA, I think it was signed this past Friday, they put out what they call an interpretive statement on groundwater and whether the discharges to groundwater that could reach surface water and whether the Clean Water Act covers those. And the statement basically says, no, Clean Water Act doesn't cover those types of discharges. And it's not so much an issue here in Texas, but in other states, you know, there's been, or are some court cases involving that issue. So something, if that topic is of interest to you, I encourage you to check that out. I think they've got the statement out on EPA's website. So anyway, with that, I think that's all I've got. Any last questions for any one of us up here? Travis, nothing? Okay. Well, thanks again for coming out. We appreciate you being here and hope you have a good rest of the afternoon.